Charles Liddell with his rock layer thing. Now, what they do in the science textbook is they have the rock layers with all, here's the Jurassic period, and here's all the 60 million years ago, this period here, this rock layer, and they have it in order, beautiful order, stacked, beautiful order, boom, 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 right up to here. But they don't, they forget to tell the people, they actually, unfortunately, forget to tell everyone that nowhere in the world does that order exist. The order is not there in reality. There is no order like that. They make the order up in the textbook so it looks really plausible, but in reality, if you go out looking, there is no layer by layer by layer. Okay, it's in the wrong order completely. Some of the oldest layers are at the bottom, some of the younger layers at the top, whatever. There's no order. So you think, well, how the hell do you find out which is the oldest then if they're not in order? And it's quite amazing how some of the uh, scientists have proven that actually the lower levels can actually be younger than the higher levels based on how erosion and things work. Like if you've got an island and you've got and it's sloping down and going into the water, and the water's so the island's here and the water's oh, sorry. Oh, going the wrong way. The water's there. Water's this hand here. Okay, and there's the island on top of the water. Slopes go down into the water. If a volcano erupts and it goes down the slope and it covers an animal on the way down, that animal can be higher up than another animal as the lava goes down further and covers another animal. So it is higher up than the animal that was covered last. So the the latest animal can be younger than the first animal, which is a higher up. So it does not make. Um, it's not really a valid way of saying something's older because it's in a lower layer. And then you find out that the layers aren't actually in the right order anyway. So it's all rubbish, isn't it? Um, so how do you find out what's the oldest layer? How do you know? How do they say, well, this layer is this old, this is a layer this old? How do you do it? If you start digging, they don't exactly have little dates on them as you're digging through the layer. It doesn't say this one's 60 million years old. It doesn't have that on the rock. So how do they work it out? They work it out through radiometric dating methods. Now, there are over 100 different ways you can have find out time or dates. There's over 100 different ways. They're called, we could call them world clocks or clocks, natural clocks. We have a quartz crystal that pulsates. We have our bone marrow produces blood or whatever through it. What else? There is the moon is moving gradually away from the Earth at a certain distance each year. Uh, the salt is the water. Salt water is becoming more saltier at a certain percentage each year. The desert is creeping, getting larger and larger each year. The coral reefs in the world are growing larger and larger each year. Okay, so there's different clocks. There's different ways of testing stuff, like how much space dust is accumulating. If you can count how much space dust is landing on the Earth, how much space dust have we got on our planet, etc. So there's over 100 different Earth clocks, and all of the Earth clocks, all of them, okay, no exception, all say the Earth is young, okay, except three. Now the three that say the Earth is old are the ones that they happen to use for dating the rock layer, the stratas, and say this one's 60 million years old. Because when you find that the irony is, if you find a Jurassic dinosaur bone, like what they say belongs to the Jurassic period, like a bigger what's a Jurassic dinosaur um a big anyway, a big monster dinosaur, blah, 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 and you find a big bone, by finding the bone itself, they say that means that rock layer is 60 million years old because you found the bone. Okay, so they're dating it by the fossils they're finding in the rock layer, which is kind of a little bit circular reasoning, really, by saying we believe this dinosaur is 60 million years old, so if we find one of these dinosaurs, then that rock layer is 60 million years old. That is completely crap way of dating. I mean, that's not scientific at all. That's, if anyone doesn't realize the flaws in that way of thinking, then it really comes up to the person who comes up with, this is how old we want things to be. Regardless of how old they are, if we say this is how old they are, this is how old they are, and when we dig them up, that's how old they are. That's just dumb. Okay, that's not science, that's dumb. I call that stupidity. Okay, so if you're a Hindu or evolutionist, whatever name you want to be called, and you're dating things that method, you are obviously incompetent. Okay, the other way they date things is by using radiometric dating, and they're the three ways they date it. They're the only three that says the world is old, I might add. The only three out of the over 100. They've got three. The radiometric dating. Now, the radiometric dating sounds very clever. It is if you have, say, you got two rock lumps, and you've got so you got different, when some elements over time lose, I think it's electrons, and so they start to change state. So if you have, it's been years since I studied this, so I'm a bit vague. I think it's is it uranium lead? Ooh, scary. Anyway, you have the different types. So as one loses the uranium, I think it's uranium, or it could be strontium, or it could be rubium, who knows. One of them loses the electron. It then changes state to a different element, so it becomes lead. And so if you look at the quantity of the lead and the uranium, you'll be able to know, oh, okay, now this all used to hopefully be uranium. It is now changed into lead. So we now know how old this rock is, because we know how. Well, we've got to make a couple of assumptions. Assumption number one: how fast is this changing? Is it changing the right speed? Is it changing? Always changing from you would get uranium to lead. I'm hoping that's what it. I'm not sure. I can't remember the radiometric dating methods. I've totally forgotten the different ones. But it doesn't really matter. The concept's the same. Changing from one element state to the next element state, looking at the overall content, and if you can measure how fast it's taking to do that, you can then calculate by the total amount how long it has taken to change from one state to the other. So how old is the rock? Sounds damn smart, sounds damn clever, sounds amazing. Just happens to fit the evolutionists' theory. But, problemo. Okay, sounds clever, but what happens if it's got a few flaws? So this is what they're basing their scientific fact on, how old dinosaurs are. I mean, this is really, really, I think, uh, really not a strong case, to be honest. A lot of belief in their age and their strata layer theory. A lot of belief and faith. Really, that's all it is. It's not true. It's not fact. It's not. It's scientific fact. Whatever. It is basic belief. Now, what happens is the actual radiometric stuff is water soluble. So you can never know the full amount what was in the rock in the first place, because some of it could have been washed away. And you can actually, how they actually find usually uranium deposits is following the stream of it where it's been washed. So if we believe in a global flood like Noah's Day, saying there was a global flood and everything was water over everything, then by default, the uranium and the lead content in a rock, there should have been a lot of it washed away, So there actually should be a completely imbalance. It should be actually showing, because of the flood, things that look older because it's been washed away than they actually are. So if that is the case, then it's not a valid dating method, because the flood actually makes things look older than they are by that dating method by default. So if I see a rock and it's supposed to be 5,000 years old, but unfortunately it's flooded and it's washed away most of the uranium, so it makes it look like 1,000,000 years old, uh, by believing in the flood, you actually should anticipate the age of the rock to be older than it actually is. Okay, so is that valid? Is that even? Hey, it depends on water, for goodness sakes. How incredibly accurate is this dating system? Not accurate at all, eh?